This story is created by a parent like you using Talebot.
Joe's Journey on the Christmas Comet Express. A special bedtime story for Joe. Once upon a time, in a cozy little town blanketed in sparkling snow, there lived a boy named Joe. It was Christmas Eve, and Joe was brimming with excitement. He had heard stories of Santa Claus, his reindeer, and the magical North Pole from his parents, but like many children, he wondered if it was all truly real. That night, as the stars twinkled like diamonds in the sky, Joe snuggled under his covers, eagerly awaiting the sounds of jingle bells. But just as his eyelids grew heavy, a distant whistle shattered the silence of the night. Curious, Joe hopped out of bed and tiptoed to the window. To his astonishment, a train with a silver sheen and a sign that read, "Christmas Comet Express," was waiting just outside his door. Without a second thought, Joe threw on his warmest coat, slipped into his boots, and raced outside. The conductor, a jolly man with a white beard and twinkling eyes, tipped his hat and said, "Welcome aboard, Joe. We've been expecting you." As the train chuffed out of the town, Joe found himself surrounded by other children, all wearing their pajamas, just like him. One girl, with bright red hair and freckles, introduced herself as Molly. Together, they explored the train, marveling at its wonders: a car filled with mountains of presents, another with a never-ending hot chocolate fountain, and even a carriage with a live band of elves playing festive tunes. As they journeyed on, the train sped through enchanted forests and over icy bridges, making its way to the North Pole. Joe and Molly stuck close together, their newfound friendship blossoming with each passing mile. They cheered as they saw a reindeer flying alongside the train and gasped in awe as the Aurora Borealis painted the sky in vivid greens and purples. However, the train suddenly came to a screeching halt. The children gathered around the window to see what was amiss. A thick blanket of fog enshrouded the tracks, and the light from the front of the train could barely pierce through it. "We need to clear this fog to get to the North Pole in time for Christmas," the conductor announced. "Is there a brave soul among us willing to help?" Joe felt a flutter in his chest. He thought of his friends, his family, and all the children waiting for Christmas morning.
Talebot, tailor-made tales for your child's dreams.
Summoning all his courage, he stepped forward. "I'll help," he declared. With the conductor's guidance, Joe was given a lantern with a light so bright it could shine through the thickest fog. He stepped off the train, Molly by his side, and together they ventured into the foggy abyss. Their hearts pounded, but they pressed on, determined to clear the path. After what felt like hours, but was only minutes, the fog began to dissipate, revealing the glistening gates of the North Pole. The children cheered, and Joe and Molly returned to the train as heroes. The Christmas Comet Express chugged forward, crossing into the realm where Christmas magic was born. The North Pole was even more magnificent than Joe could have imagined. Towers made of candy canes, streets lined with gumdrops, and a grand castle where Santa and Mrs. Claus lived. Elves bustled about, putting the final touches on toys and loading Santa's sleigh. Santa himself greeted Joe and the other children with a hearty "Ho, ho, ho." He listened to their Christmas wishes, and with a twinkle in his eye, he shared the true spirit of Christmas: kindness, sharing, and the joy of giving. As the clock neared midnight, it was time for the children to return home. Santa gifted Joe a small bell, a reminder of his bravery and the magic he experienced. "Only those who truly believe can hear its ring," Santa whispered. Back on the train, Joe clutched the bell tightly. He had made friends, faced his fears, and helped save Christmas. As the train pulled up to his house, snow began to fall gently, covering the world in a blanket of white. Joe tiptoed back into his room, the bell still in his hand. And as he drifted off to sleep, he could swear he heard the faint sound of jingle bells in the distance. When Christmas morning arrived, Joe awoke to find presents under the tree, but the greatest gift of all was the adventure he had been on, the one he would never forget. And every Christmas Eve thereafter, Joe would hold the bell close, and with a smile, he'd remember the Christmas Comet Express, the friends he made, and the magic that filled his heart. The end.
Created by a kid and their parent using Talebot, click the link in the video description to create your own story.